good evening and many thanks for joining us. This is Impact Kenya, your new television series that gives you an opportunity to be heard and also hold our leaders accountable. My name is Jason Nyantino. Tonight on this program, we focus on the state of the nation with an eye on peace and security as we all prepare to vote on the 9th of August. I've got a fantastic panel tonight that is ready to field questions from my audience members drawn from different counties, namely Baringo, Marsabit, Mombasa, Nairobi, among others. Let's get to know who is on the panel tonight. Dr. Danvas Makori. Danvas is a commissioner, National Cohesion and Integration Commission. He is a peace and conflict advocate. Danvas describes himself as a resourceful and initiative-driven leader and public administrator. Daktari, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jason.
Next in line is Ikal Angelei. Ikal is a co-founder and director, Friends of Lake Turkana, a grassroots organization that seeks to foster socio-economic and environmental justice in Lake Turkana Basin. Ikal is an environmental activist who fights for the rights of the indigenous communities in northern Kenya. Ikal, it's a pleasure to have you on the show tonight. Ikal, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jason.
Last but not least is Shiko Kihika. Shiko is the Executive Director, Tribeless Youth. Shiko is also an online human rights activist who empowers young people through art and other forms of creativity. Shiko, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Let's put our hands together for the panel. Before we start tonight's debate, let's have a look at what Kenyans are saying about security. Over the last decade, the government has spent nearly 3 trillion shillings to strengthen security agencies in efforts to keep the country safe and secure. Despite this huge investment in security, the country still experiences cases of insecurity where dozens of lives have been lost and property destroyed.
Bonga juu insecurity, unajua insecurity maboys wana job. So maboys wengi kosa job na wanachapa kwa mbosho. Au tunafikiria wapate doni crime. Na ndio kupunguza at least wakipata job, hakutakuwa na crime na unasikia watu wamekuwa pesa ama nini.
Apart from the unemployment and stuff, it and incitement, and I think actually our leaders mostly wakiingia unapata this hate speech zinafanya wase wengi kwa unajua wanaongelea large crowd of people.
Owing to this, critical questions continue to emerge as to the effectiveness of government strategy in curbing insecurity as Kenyans prepare to vote in August. Will the dawn-to-dusk curfews, disarmament exercises, peace negotiations, and information sharing by citizens give rise to a more secure country? We find out tonight on Impact Kenya. Many thanks for that. Our first question of the evening comes from Maslin Irungu. Maslin is from Kajiado County.
My question is, every electioneering period, we have political tension that involves crowds. And in those crowds, there are effects that accrue from the tension that they cause, and therefore the police is involved in order to mitigate the effects. Therefore, what are the measures that are being taken by the security agencies to ensure that they curb police brutality whilst ensuring that there is peace in the country during the electioneering period? Thank you.
Thank you. Maslin, that comes straight to you, Dr. Makori. We invited the police commission that was supposed to be on this panel tonight, but for some reason they didn't make it. So, and I know you engage a lot with government.
Thanks, Jason. One of the things that has changed to even answer, before even answer that, but also to still inform the answer. 2 years ago, we had a policy change in government, which we call all government approach, whereby all government agencies coordinate, work together, bring synergy. Because usually before that there were silos and everybody did their own thing. So now we coordinate, we talk to each other, we've removed the bureaucracy that usually is there. So it helps me because I know some of the plans my counterparts over the National Police Service and other security infrastructure are doing as far as the preparations are concerned. Two things they have done. Number one is to roll out, they have a document which they have, selection preparation strategy document. And in that document is for training of their police officers and all their ranks, from the commanders to the ranks on election preparation. They have a whole, I'd say, lead and engagement, especially on election preparation. They've been doing it for the past 1 year, actually. They have cascaded their training all the way to the ground.
Just out of curiosity,
yes.
What is this training about? What does it inculcate in the police officers?
One, actually, it's first of all, it's a basic training. First of all, on our constitution and as spoken on basic rights, human rights. You understand? And actually, in police training in Kiganjo right now, one of the courses is actually on the human rights aspect of our constitution, which wasn't there. But that's for the training. Then the issue of crowd management, public safety is there. Customer service, basic things, how just to engage with the people is there. Election laws, they train on election laws and how to know if there is somebody's a breach on election law, especially as we go through this process. So just overall, that's okay. the strategy in that, the thrust in that document. So that's what they have done.
Okay.
Number two, they're working closely because I know where this is coming. They're working closely, and we are working closely also with IPOA, okay? Because I know there's been many concerns, especially in northern parts of Kenya, in formal settlements here in Nairobi and in urban centers on police engagement. So they're really working closely. At first, they used to be antagonistic with each other, you know, because the IPOA is oversight, is a civilian oversight body of the police. So working closely with the national, there's what we call the National Police Service Commission, okay? Then there's National Police Service, then there is IPOA, okay? So both of them are working together to ensure that incidences of abuse or brute force are minimized, and when they occur, they're speedily investigated, and they have occurred. There's an operation going on right now, and believe me, when we get reports, because we get those reports very quickly, we're able to forward to IPOA and also engage the police.
Okay, fair enough. So in your view, Mr. Commissioner, is that we expect police to behave differently this time around?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's get to hear what the rest of the panel has got to say in terms of Masline's question. Shiko, do you think our police have improved? From what I'm hearing from Commissioner is that things are happening.
No, unfortunately, no. Just 2 weeks ago, I come from Nakuru County. A lady named Whitney was shot. A young high school student was shot by cops in the broad daylight. They carried the body, took it to the mortuary, and left it at that. No justice has been found yet. Nothing has been said. IPOA themselves have not done anything to that effect. The father of Whitney lost another daughter a year ago, same way. So am I expecting the police to behave differently? No, Jacaranda lost cricket.
So in your view, Shiko, is that you are fierce about
I am worried because I feel
the coming
like
election?
I am really scared, and I'm worried because I feel like every young person in the streets are a bullet away from being a hashtag. And as long as the status quo remain, as long as we see what we saw in Jacaranda, then I fear for my young people, because the elder generations would be the one who are being used by politicians. The crowds Mercy is talking about is basically young people. So when we talk about these changes, this would have been done 5 years ago, not now.
Okay, thank you. Ikal, I wanted to listen to this as you also delve into this discussion. The National Police Service has in recent weeks intensified its patrols in volatile Kerio Valley to eradicate bandits in the area. That's one aspect that we found out in our research. Then, according to a report from police, Elgeyo Marakwet daring a bandit engaged police officers in daytime fierce gun battle at a local maize farm. So that is related to the rest of insecurity across the country. we have a bandit problem, we have the normal insecurity in our houses. Are we safe as a country?
I think, when I was listening to her and just when you said what was in the research, I think the security situation in this country is handled as an event. It's piecemeal. Police brutality has been going on. If you speak to people from Mathare, it's every day. If you look at the hashtags of the young boy who was killed, it's there, it's been there. So I think what happens is we narrow it down to an election. An election is an event. Again, to the political class, is an event. But an electioneering period really means that what Shiko is saying, 5 years ago, what did we learn? In 2013, 2017, it's the same hashtags every election. But we wait until the election, a year before the elections, and perhaps because resources are there. When you look at the banditry situation, I come from Turkana. I work in Kapedo. And the operation comes in, and I come from a family that has been part of this. My father was a member of parliament during the time when really Pokot Turkana conflict. My mother comes from Baringo. So I see this whole mix. And whenever I hear, with all due respect, CS Matiang'i talking about, we are going in for an operation, we laugh at it. It's like a joke to the public because it's a rush in, a rush out. No one listens to the military themselves who are going into those operations. We did the operation in Laikipia, Marsabit 2 years ago, Marsabit now, Isiolo, Kerio. It is a sequence where sadly, a lot of the resources remain in Harambee House. So the operation is done, the budget is made, but the big shots in the security ministries keep the money, but very little resources go to the people going to the ground. I will tell you for free that the APC in Kapedo, Lomelo does not have a machine right now to go after the bandits. In Kainuk, as it is, the APC is grounded. So you're telling young people who've just come from training to risk their lives and go after people who understand the terrain. If you look at it back to the days of Moi, we had the National Police, it used to be the Kenya Police Reservists, now National Police Reservists, because they understood the terrain. Okay. A lot of these areas is really hard. So when you look at it as a country, our security situation is not a priority, it is an event. And unless it is seen and ingrained into the development plan of the country, security, whether in our houses, whether on the streets, whether during an election period, whether in the everyday lives of people, is seen as an event as long as it is not touching on the big infrastructure where we have invested in.
Thank you. Dr. Makori, those are views from Kenyans. I brought them right on the panel for you to hear. What are you going to tell the police IG, because I know you're going to meet him tomorrow, and the chair of the National Police Service Commission was supposed to be here. He didn't show up. What's your report? What are you going to tell them?
The good thing for us as a commission, we're independent. And we actually, our mandate, first of all, is to advise government. Implicit in advice is the person advising does not know what they're doing, or what they're doing is wrong. Otherwise, there's no business advising the person you're advising, right? And we hear this. I spend a lot of time on the ground. I've been to Kainuk, I've been to Kapedo, I've been to Lomelo, I've been to Marigat, Mukutani. I know people there. I know people who've actually been killed in this conflict, personally, okay? And when communities, because our work is on the peace infrastructure, especially, because you can have security all you want infrastructure, but it doesn't guarantee there is peace. And a good example is exactly what is happening in Kerio Valley, okay? To answer your question, yes, of course we say it, and we say it truthfully, because we owe. First of all, I took an oath to protect the Constitution and the people of Kenya, to serve the people of Kenya, to hear those concerns. Okay. So I owe it to them to say, you know what, this is right, this is wrong. And what she's saying actually is very true, because I've been actually, I'm not a fan of this big time operation, okay? There are places, the times I've advocated, in my position, very few places in this country have advocated. A good example, where I advocated for operation was Marsabit, and it wasn't a large scale, it was a pinpointed surgical operation to go after infrastructure. So for us, you see, the concerns of the Mwananchi, sometimes we relay, most of the time we do relay, and there are times they are hard and responded, not all the time. Okay, and I will pass those concerns, and it's sad to hear the story that Shiko said about what happened in Nakuru. I can tell you I'll follow up with the IPOA to make sure that there's justice for that family.
All right.
Yeah.
You're watching Impact Kenya. We are taking a short break. We'll be back in a minute. Welcome back to Impact Kenya with me, Jason Nyantino. Tonight, we are focusing on the state of the nation with an eye specifically on peace and security as we prepare to vote on the 9th of August. My next question tonight is from Mudhoni Kariuki, who comes to us all the way from Nyeri County. Mudhoni.
How are the security institutions preparing to protect the Kenyans? Do they undergo some kind of special training? Do they some kind of special training, or do they have, what resources do they have to protect? And if they have any strategies in place, how are the strategies sustainable?
I think, Commissioner, you were touching on that earlier about training, so which you've already touched on. Maybe you can also spread that explanation to other agencies of government. How are they prepared for the coming election? Are they going to protect us from what we are seeing?
There's a lot of preparation actually that is happening behind the scenes, and I really wish my other counterparts in security agencies and other government agencies to always avail themselves in such forums and in such shows, because one thing we realized, and why such questions are relevant and being asked, when we did a study on why we have electoral violence in our roadmap towards election, peaceful election, that should be the norm. The first problem, the first obstacle to peace is lack of trust between the government and the citizens and between the citizens themselves. People just don't trust. And why there's no trust is because there's that information gap. People don't know. When people know, people calm down and people are able to trust the institutions, okay? Now, for me, that's something I want to urge my counterparts always avail so that they can engage the citizens of Kenya to understand, so that they can know the preparations, because there's extensive preparation that we've done, especially for the past 2 years, and the gears have changed the past 6 months from IEBC. I know for a fact they are way much more prepared now than the one 2017 exactly the time right now. Now do people know that? No. People think it's still the same old they were. They have learned from their mistakes. Okay, are they perfect? No. Okay, they have a long way to go, absolutely. But there's a lot of preparation they're doing, but people don't know. Now, to answer the question on security apparatus, of course, there's a lot of training that have been going on, even just apart from election management. What I said earlier is when we've come together in what we call a multi-sector approach on election management, okay? So where the judiciary is there, the National Police Service is there, DCI, we sit AIBC, sits there, RPP, ESCC, DCI. And together we're able, any institution that actually touches on election or manages election, any part of election, or the security or the peace infrastructure, we all sit together in one place, in one table, we exchange information, and we are able to leverage on our expertise. So there are those who are expert in a specific field, and we're able to exchange information very quickly. That is one of the strategies that we have. But by that, we are able to close in. So for example, let me just give an example on a strategy that is there. You see, security is not just the law enforcement aspect. There's the criminal justice aspect, because when you arrest somebody, then what? You understand, then what? So if the criminal justice system is not prepared to handle that, then we still have the same problem we will have. Why do we have election violence? Is it because people don't trust the institutions that manage election, and they don't feel their grievances will be heard. Therefore, they go to the street and protest because, as I say, no justice, no peace. Okay. You understand? So that whole aspect is what is being now back to.
Thanks, Commissioner. Yes. You can listen to this and the rest of the panel. In 2013, the budget for national security was 74 billion. That's per year. In the budget that was just passed Parliament the other day, 2022-2023, the security budget has gone up to 319 billion Kenya shillings. Why do we still have this challenge of insecurity in this country, Ikal?
You know, when you have institutions, security institutions are very national, and when they're politicized, then that becomes the problem, where you have everything is by, snap your finger and somebody jumps, even if they know that that is not their function. I think that is the biggest challenge. So when you politicize the security systems, and then you lose that trust, because then it is based on, you find all these declarations of, I am being victimized by the security institutions. The security institutions, the security apparatus is being used to intimidate me. You see those things, and that's where the trust is lost. And then I think the biggest part, again, is the narrowing down on electoral violence, the security aspect in relation to elections. If I have mistrust before elections, I'm not going to trust it just because you do some training for elections. And I think we've got to be able to build on that, because why is it that it's just electoral violence? Why is it that the focus on elections? Because people leave before and after elections, and really building institutions so that somebody leaves power, you change IGs, the inspector generals, and the institutions continue to run. The fact that we put it mostly on a person who is politically aligned to X person or Y person, this is where the problem begins. And I think my biggest problem in relation to the budget is the militarization of the state, where everything now, yesterday I think, the president was rolling something around GIS, but then you see the biggest people who are sitting at State House is military. It's land-related. We have a lot of land-related conflicts in this country, but then you're seeing the military is running and doing a lot of mapping on our land. So you see the
do you
resources.
Do you have a problem with that?
The resources, yes, because then we are going back. Before 2010, before the Constitution, we had a lot in terms of the cadasters, the mapping processes were military. And so it was the military that basically controlled how the country was going, where the resources are, and how people claim their rights. The main reason why people fight is not necessarily ethnic. It is haves and have-nots. And mostly then framed within a very ethnic narrative.
So it's a resources
So it's a resource-based thing, and why people are fighting for this election. So I think it's also looking at, even if you're putting more money into the military, where is that money really going? Is it going to give the actual mandate of the military, or is it going to do other things like military expansion in places like Conservative?
Thank you. Shiko, listen to this one more statistic here. There's a UN standard of one police officer to 450. Kenya has actually surpassed. So ordinarily speaking, we should be a very secure country. The money is there, the numbers are there, the training is being done. What is not happening?
Corruption is also there.
Oh, okay, go on. So it's a governance issue.
Exactly. And we are a country that is very good on paper. When you're talking about our budgets, we already have a very beautiful budget of 3.3 trillion that now is being told is actually more. There's more that we don't know that was in it. But at the same time, what goes to the people is a teardrop of the same, right? So we have this budget on an institution, and we're not at war as a country. Are we looking at buying more machinery? Are we looking at hiring more? What are we looking at doing? That's the question. And Dekal has said it very well. It started with militarizing Nairobi, and then it went to other institutions. And now we are seated
where... But on the flip
where...
side, that military question, on the flip side, as Nairobians, I live in Nairobi. I have seen a lot of infrastructure development. There seems to be, things seems to be working. So are we then just criticizing the military for the sake of it?
No.
But the service delivery is actually feasible, what the county government could not do.
Is that constitutionally okay? And why do people have a governor then?
Well, that takes us back to a whole different
It is we need to stop settling for less in the name of at least we are getting. Because if we had the right person seated on that governor's seat, then we don't need the military to do it. Is it constitutionally right? No, it's not. So we cannot allow the ills that happened way before the Constitution to continue just because the roads, now we have walking paths, and it's fine. How much more is being lost that is not being declared at the same time? So we need to start asking ourselves, now the military has taken over. Are we seeing public participation? Are we seeing the open tender? Are we seeing, there is nothing of the sort that is happening in Nairobi. So we need to also go down and say, are we as a country settling for less just because we have walking paths?
Allow me to take the next question, which is from Joseph Ndishu. Joseph is from Nairobi County. Joseph, your question.
Do you think that the newly launched forensic lab at the DSI headquarters is going to help solve the current crime affairs, because there are many? So will it make a different impact, or it will just be another expensive project with zero productivity?
Thank you, Joseph. Commissioner, the president launched the forensic lab the other day. You're the government.
I'm the government.
Okay, you advise government. So
Yes,
what
yes.
will you advise us? Because we are part of government. We are Kenyans.
Yes. I think I wish Kenyans even understood the kind of lab that was launched. It is almost 10 labs in one. It's a very extensive facility they did there. It's hard to answer the question, will it, because we don't know. Because you need it's not, you can have the hardware, you can have the coolest gadgets in town, but if you don't have the manpower to man, or first of all, the will. One of the most important things in life is to have the will. The political will and the professional will actually sometimes to do what needs to be done. So that provides the avenue now to execute. We have a will, now we have the right tools to execute what you want to execute. So for me, I would say, where there is a will, if there is the correct will, and the correct personnel, absolutely. Actually, the person in charge of the forensic lab is somebody I know personally. And it's somebody who actually will do a fantastic job given the space to operate. So I think it should be a game changer. It should be, because there's, if you understand the criminal justice system, how it works, a lot of cases get dismissed in court. Okay, a lot. I've never been a fan of extrajudicial killing, and I won't be. But I can tell you, the frustration of the security counterparts sometimes, they expend tremendous resource in investigating, in tracking, and then the guy is released next day on technicality. Why? Because the DNA was not collected properly, there's no any. They're like, oh, come on, we're tired of this thing. So it should, for me, it addresses the whole problems we have in the criminal justice systems that we have. It's not purely just that. It should be able to, and not just for us, even regionally. We're offering training to our counterparts across the East African community, because it's fast, actually, it's the first in South Africa that we have like that. So it should be a game changer, used correctly.
So,
yes.
So it is a step in the right direction.
Yes.
At least from government.
Yes.
All right.
But do you know how long it has been in play?
I mean, I've read it for eternity.
It's supposed to be done like 30 years ago. Yeah. But right. As they have said, I like what Shiko said. I mean, you see, we have a serious issue in governance, and I'm glad now it's been done now, because that thing was supposed to be done a long time ago, and innocent people will have been exonerated, and the correct criminals will be in prison right now had we it in place all this time. But we have criminals running around because we didn't have the capacity to investigate and prosecute and jail those criminals. Yeah.
So Shiko, the forensic lab, is the magic bullet for all our problems?
Not really. I want to be very optimistic about it, because it's something we say, like the commissioner said, it's been a conversation for the last 30 years. So finally, there's a step. Question is, we're still working with the same people who gets some cash and it's done. Is it also going to be used to manipulate the system? So those are questions that we need to ask ourselves, because Ekal spoke about trust, and also the commissioner touched on trust. That's a huge thing. And I think for Kenyans, even if you were to do a statistic here, how many of us trust our security systems and operators? Almost none, because of the things we've seen, because of the hell we've been taken through by the same systems. So when we talk about, it's just like the way we had this huge celebration of, the police reforms and all this, and now it's not a force, it's a service, but it's a service within a force. So you find people who are supposed to serve are now forcing things. You find that someone you'd go to seek for help might...
service within a force?
Yeah.
A force. All right.
Force within a service,
Thank you. Time for our second break. You're watching Impact Kenya with me, Jason Nyantino. This is a good time for you to be part of this conversation by engaging us on the contacts on your screen, including our social media handles, by answering this question. Do you think the August 9th general election will be peaceful? Do you think the August 9th general election will be peaceful? We'll be glad to know what you think, and give us your name and where you're watching us from. Impact Kenya takes a break. We'll be back in a minute. My next question is from Hilary Cheboy, all the way from Baringo County. Hilary, your question, please.
The question is, many people, especially in Baringo County, have lived in fear. The county has experienced rampant attacks over time. So the question is, what are the government plans to address this issue, since it's affecting most of the people psychologically?
This has been a prevalent problem. It's not an event, like you said earlier, it's been there. Why is there a problem in northern Kenya?
Thank you. So as I said, I come from Turkana, and my family is in Baringo North. My mother came from Baringo North, and the joke I made as a child was my father was going to raid animals, but decided to get my mother. It used to be, at that time, it was an easy joke to make. But then things have changed, because then it was just typical, just animals and stuff. Now it's expansionist. I think it has two sides to it. I think there is a sense of a market for livestock. I think there's also, bottom line, it's a crime. But then the way it's been handled, you hear from high government officials, like a few weeks ago, P.S. Kebisho said, turn them into farmers. They will stop, raiding each other. And I thought to myself, such simplistic thinking is what spoils the whole thought process around what happens. I think the security operations are exclusive of the people. And so when you sit in Nairobi, Harambee House, and you come up with a strategy, and you don't really ask because there are various ways that this insecurity situation happens in places like Baringo, Mukutani, Kapedo, East Baringo. You go all the way till West Pokot. And you find that the operations target the people who are there silently living with their few animals, and then there's a clean sweep of operations. I think, for me, one of the things that government needs to really think is ask themselves, why? What is the drivers around this? If you're really looking at security operations, have a very inclusive security protocol that the people work with the community. We've had the situation in Kainuk where for years it was daylight exchange with the police and any military force. But then we got peace for 3 years. West Pokot came and they were trading in Kainuk and back.
So what brought that solution?
There was a very inclusive process, really engaging the communities, because people know who the criminals are. Mm-hmm. I think that's one thing we have to be very clear. People know who the criminals are. In March this year, I lost over 400 shots of my own livestock. They were taken. I went to the police station, like a good citizen, and reported and said, this is what has been taken. We knew where they had crossed to. But there is a de-link between what happens in Baringo County, what happens in Turkana County, what happens in Pokot County, that if my livestock have moved into Pokot County, there is no communication between the county commander in Turkana to ask the county commander in West Pokot, have you seen this? Because these livestock are not flying into the air. They move into lands and other places. But then we act like as if there is absolutely I will tell you for free, within that region, there is no security strategy.
Okay. The government has put some, measures in place. We've had the CS for Interior talking about curfews. The curfews actually, already imposed in some counties, disarmament exercises, peace negotiations like what Ikala has talked about. Do you think those are sustainable solutions to this problem?
Unfortunately, no, because this has been something that has been going on for a long time. I've worked in Baringo in TRT before, and the one thing that I realized is when you sit down with these people, like Ikal said, they know who did what, they know who killed who, and they know who took what. But they do not trust the security agents with that information. So it's about first going back and rebuilding the trust with the community. It's about making peace not a security force issue, but a community problem. Because if I come to you in the community, you understand your problem better. Well, you understand your problem better, then you know the solution to your problem better than I do. Because in most cases, when the cops go in there, it's shoot to kill. It's run after the bandit. It's arrest, But no one in their foreheads is written, I'm a bandit. So how sure are we that the people you're shooting are the bandits? So for me, I feel like security issue should go back to the community. Okay. See, the same way we used to say, before this modernization, and I think it still happens in our village, that when someone is going to be sold to someone, the whole community knows, and they have already discussed it. And it's the same way we should be talking about our security issues.
What do you have to tell Kenyans about this insecurity challenge?
Let me specifically answer the issue of Baringo. Since 1983, and she can testify to that, we've had countless operations. We had one last year, but one that was 6 months. We sent every detachment we have, specialized units, the RDU, the DPU, okay, the QRF, the KDF was there. Everybody was there. The GSU was there, and nothing changed. Okay, and you understand that. If we were to bring the entire KDF in Baringo, and every single police service in the country we take to Baringo, it will still not change anything. If people understand that, okay, nothing will change. We've done a lot of engagement there. In our study in Baringo, we know what is the main issue. It's not the insecurity that it looks like. Do you know Tiati leads, as a constituency, leads the country in illiteracy?
Illiteracy.
Illiteracy. How many schools do you think are in Tiati?
Well, I don't know. You can tell us.
Last time I checked.
Sorry, how many?
They're not operational.
3 operations.
And there's a whole constituency, I guess.
You know how vast Tiati is? It is it's a beautiful place. It is vast. We have 3.
So it's a systemic problem then.
That's what I'm telling you. In our experience in the country, it's really northern Kenya. That's my region that I oversee, entire northern. So that's why I know these issues very well. In counties, it's in constituencies or regions where, I'll give you an example. I call it, to answer the issue of Baringo, I call it the tale of the 3 Samburus, okay? Samburu West, Samburu North, and Samburu East. Samburu West, the MP, Honorable Naisula, when she became an MP, was focused on taking her people to school. She built so many schools. I think at one time, in the first year, she had done 27 schools. Now there's almost 100 schools, okay? There's no banditry at all in Samburu West. Land is adjudicated in Samburu West. As a matter of fact, now they have become victims of people from Samburu North. You understand? They become victims of their own success. Then we're seeing the same in Samburu East. I talked to the MP of Samburu East. I told him, build schools, go to TSC, ask for teachers. And guess what? The moment he started doing that, he's built 27 schools, last time I checked too. You can see a decline in these rates that you see. Because when you check these Waranis, we call them Waranis there, when you take them to school, they have not time business engaging in this. When we called for, I was shocked. I think we were in, I think we were in Kenyan or Chemilingot. I think Chemilingot one time, we called for a meeting, and in that meeting, there was 1,000, Jason, 1,000 young people. We call them Moranis, the Morans, okay?
Well, what was the meeting about?
It was a peace meeting.
Peace meeting.
It was a peace meeting. These are kids aged 14 to about early 20s. None of them speak Swahili. None of them, about 1,000. Not even one could speak. So this is true because I was there. All of them have guns, which leads me to the second point. All of them now in northern Kenya, a gun is like a stick. You gotta use it. Yeah, so you gotta understand also the culture. It's not a bad. No, me, I wasn't scared. I wasn't scared. All of them have guns. None of them speak Swahili, and they're 14-year-old kids. You understand?
So it's an illiteracy.
Yeah, if you take them to school, I've been in this job for long. When you build school, take them and you engage them, you address the root issue. So that one of the root issues is small arms. Do you know how many small arms we have in Kenya illegal? We have 683,000 illegal small firearms in the country.
In the hands of the public.
Yes, more than the government has. Yeah. You know that.
That sounds scary.
But where does it come from?
Allow me to take some questions from the audience tonight as we finish the show. Thanks, Commissioner. Anyone with a question?
As Daktari has previously stated, that the biggest challenge to the people of such regions like Tiati is illiteracy. My question is, why is the government not taking any different kind of measures that can be beneficial and change the lives of the people?
My name is Abuya Stanley. When you talk of 3 schools in Tiati constituency, and the children you met all don't know Swahili or English for that matter, they have guns. What can government do to take away the guns from their hands? Because in most cases you find that the guns they possess are used to maybe get some food because their parents don't have jobs.
Mr. Commissioner, your statistic is causing trouble tonight. 3 schools in Tiati.
I like speaking the truth because you have to acknowledge a problem for you to fix it. Yes. We can't waste time doing the same thing over and over and doing this, and then it doesn't work. To answer his question, I've engaged with the MP for Tiati for a long time and compelled him to use, because schools usually is a CDF issue, okay? Each CDF is given, every MP in this country has exactly the same amount of money. So my question is, how comes the other ones are able to build schools and he's not building schools in that place? Okay. You understand? So personally, I've engaged him and we're compelling him to use CDF to build more schools. We're engaging the Ministry of Education, okay? You understand? So for me also, for residents of Baringo at large, and even that Kerio Valley, Turkana East, leadership makes a difference. If you get leadership, it's easy to work with and compel them to bring development, infrastructure to these places, because that is what will make a difference in this place.
But what is the role of the citizen?
In terms of what the citizen's role is one, is speaking out. That's the first thing. Because we know, you see WhatsApp, messages, 300 raiders coming. So being able to know which security institution to take to give this message to.
Okay.
When you know that, and sometimes a Pokot will call me and say, please tell your people in Lokwamosing, they have just crossed the river.
So they actually know what's happening. Yeah.
But then the problem is this. So when they say, and you find people saying, even if we tell the GSU in Lokori, they will not come. And now you've disarmed the people. I mean, like, I'll give you an example. Last year, Lopi village was hit. And we all knew. 36 hours before the raid. We all knew. Even the county commissioner. But communities, they give this information, until sometimes they sit and say, because it wasn't even a raid where people were killed, because everybody just kept quiet where the animals went. They went and took the animals and they left.
Okay.
So I think it's a matter of, yes, citizens will speak out. Citizens want to go to school. They want the development. No one wants to live with bullets every time. But the problem is, how do we build this relationship with the various government institutions? How do we look at it? How do we make sure that security is part of the development agenda in a way that citizens feel that they really are protected? Because I will tell you for free, after my animals were raided, after the risks that I have seen people in my community go through, I would not have a problem registering for a gun myself. Because you see this, you live in this situation, you see people getting killed every single time. And I remember my father saying, it's better to have a gun and be able to use it than not have a gun at all and watch people die. And that's the feeling that many people in this region continue to have.
A radical solution on the gun issue. I used to be a firm proponent of disarmament. I'm no longer that. Because you cannot map up 600,000.
So you think disarmament doesn't work?
No. Why did they take the firearms in the first place? I say, yes, it's because it was defensive. Of course, now they're used on the offense. But for the most part, our borders were so porous. Yeah. Communities in Turkana used to be raided from Uganda, from Sudan,
so
from Ethiopia.
What are you advocating for?
I advocate for legalizing them. Register all of them and legalize them. Let them defend themselves. Because now you know which one is used illegally or not.
Yeah.
Thank you. And that's where the curtains fall for tonight's edition of Impact Kenya with me, Jason Nyantino. We were focusing on the state of the nation with a specific eye on peace and security as we head to the polls on the 9th of August. It's a good time to engage us on our social media handles and other contacts on your screen by answering this question. Do you think the August 9th general election will be peaceful? Do you think the August 9th general election will be peaceful? Let us know where you're watching us from and what you think. Let's maintain peace. We do this again next week on this same time and the same station. It's good night.